Hello, good evening and welcome to News at 10. This is our last bulletin for the day. I'm Stephen Anti. We're coming to you live from the News Hub at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7 and watch us live on DSTV channel 279. Let's start first with the major news highlights of the day. Two suspected drug peddlers have been arrested with 15 bags of dry leaves suspected to be Indian hemp in a joint cross-border operation. The suspects, Majid Mamin, 29, and Mariam Dahamani, 39, were arrested in Nalerigu and Sakogu. Government has asked striking members of the LPG Operators Association to resume operations and return for negotiations. The Deputy Minister of Energy, Dr. Mohammed Amin, was reacting to the strike by members of the association in Accra. And an Accra High Court has dismissed an application by former Cocoa Board CEO Dr. Stephen Opuni challenging the freezing of his accounts by the Economic and Organized Crime Office. The judge, Justice Georgina Mensah Dacha, who did not read the entire ruling, stressed the need to protect public funds. Elsewhere, Secretary of State to the U.S., Mike Pompeo, has said the United States is imposing the strongest sanctions in history on Iran. In a speech in Washington, America's top diplomat said Iran would be battling to keep its economy alive after the sanctions took effect. Those were major news highlights. Remember, you can watch our live stream on Facebook, hear us on 3FM 92.7, and catch us live on your DSTV channel 279. Up next is the big one. Welcome back. Now, laboratory technicians on Monday, May 21, began a partial withdrawal of their services across the country. This is in protest to what they describe as salary discrepancies which have existed after the introduction of the single spine salary pay policy some 6 years ago. According to the laboratory technicians with diploma certificates, I beg your pardon, were supposed to be ranked on the same level as diploma holding nurses, but the technicians say they've been made worse off due to the single spine pay policy. Right, Michael Omari is the General Secretary of the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists and is joining us in the studio now. Many thanks, and thank you very much for your time. So let me understand what your key concerns really are, because several times we've heard you complain that you were worse off under the single spine pay policy, but are you really worse off?
Thank you, and good evening to your listeners. The way you asked the question has connected me, but let me say, yes, really we are worse off. But our concerns, there are three main concerns that we have. One, the medical laboratory scientists. My people are always not comfortable when you refer to us as laboratory technicians. We are medical laboratory scientists. And the issue is that medical laboratory science has been marginalized for far too long, to the extent that we are not represented at the management level. Because we are not represented at management level, people who do not practice medical laboratory science take decisions for us as to what goes on in the laboratory, and this affects quality of service. Because of that, we are asking that now we need representation. And how can we get our representation? We need a directorate from the top level at the ministries to the Ghana Health Service, and then to all levels of healthcare. We need directorates.
And by withdrawing your service, this demand or request is loudly emphasized, or what?
Why are we withdrawing the services? I'll come there. There are three main reasons why we are withdrawing the services. The second issue is that the service that we provide generates a lot of funds, and the fund goes to a bottomless pool, and we are always running out of.
What do you mean bottomless pool? You mean that there is no a steady stream of finances for you to stock up, for example,
yes, exactly,
materials you need to work,
yes,
all of
yeah,
that?
exactly. So we are asking that the money we generate, some should be fenced in a certain account that can be used mainly for the reagents and equipment that we use for services, so that we can give continuous service without service interruption. And the third issue is the placement of the technical officers, the diploma grade, on the salary structure, which is worse off, and all these 6 years we've talked of it.
So what, is it only the diploma grade, or
it's not only the diploma grade?
Yeah.
There are other grades. The diploma and the certificate grades are the most worse off. And
what about those who are studying for degree? I mean, my brother is studying for a degree to be a medical laboratory scientist. So it does appear there is no bright future for such graduates, are there?
For bright future, there is. The problem with the degree scientists is that on the salary scale, it is same as the analogous grade, but the market premium, we are worse off, especially at the deputy chief and the chief grade, which we have also complained. And we are saying that the withdrawal of services is necessary because we have almost exhausted all avenues. It didn't start.
Tell me the avenues you explored. I mean, before we talk about exhausting it, you met with government?
We met with government,
Ministry of Health,
Ministry of Health,
fair wages and salaries.
We have.
When was the last time you met the fair wages?
We've gone there for more than 17 times
within the first quarter of this year.
Not within the first quarter of this year. For the past 6 years that this issue started, we've gone to grievances, and somewhere 2012 we were referred to Complaints and Grievances Committee. The committees realized that our case is justified. The then Deputy Minister of Health wrote to Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to rectify the anomaly. They refused to do. And we have persisted. Several letters have been written. We have met previous government ministers, current government ministers, including the Minister of Labor. We have.
You get no feedback at all, or you get assurances?
Even somewhere in March, the Director General of Ghana Health Services wrote to the Fair Wages that this anomaly has existed for long and it should be corrected. It's unfortunate that I don't have the letter here with me. Fair Wages replied recently that they don't understand why they should put especially the deputy, the assistant technical officer, the chief technical officer, and principal technical officer at the same grade as the analogous grade, because they are not the same. Meanwhile, at the grievances committee, all these things were laid bare, and everybody agreed. That
so it's like you going back to square one.
Yeah, going back to square one.
So this withdrawal of services, what impact are you expecting that it will have? I mean, I'm not even talking about the effect to have on your negotiations, but the various health centers are going to really crumble if you withdraw these services. Your services are very vital.
We say it and we believe that our services,
medical diagnosis is essential to healthcare.
We say and we believe that our services is very vital, but that it doesn't seem so to the policymakers. If it is vital, why haven't they taken the pain?
How long are you going to be on strike?
For that, you see, sometimes when leadership sits and you ask how long are we going to be on strike, then it look like it's leadership who says you should go on strike. But it's the membership. So as long as membership decide not to come to work, we are trying to convince them to come back.
Michael Omari, we're grateful for your time. Michael Omari is the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Laboratory Scientists Association. Let's move on to some other stories. The National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament for Busa South, Dr. Clement Park, has expressed delight at the decision by the former President John Dramani Mahama to contest as presidential candidate for the 2020 elections. Dr. Park describes the move as a good one. The Busa South MP, who is also a former presidential staffer, is one of the individuals who have been mounting pressure on the former president to contest. Dr. Park has also been questioning the cost of the 2017 and 2018 presidential diaries. Dr. Park is joining us on the telephone lines now. Doc, thank you extremely for joining us. We're grateful. So tell me, I need to have a better understanding. You feel that the move by your former boss is the best? I mean, considering that there are others who are also contesting for the same slot?
Well, the simple answer is yes. But let me say good evening to you and viewers. I would have wished to be in the studio with you, Stephen. It's been a while, but yes. The short answer is yes. I think if we are to enumerate the reasons why myself, as part of a collective of individuals across the country, are elated and excited regarding the news, or if you like, the strong signal from former President John Dramani Mahama that if and when the time comes, he will present himself to be considered by the great NDC party.
But it's not like it's a news we didn't anticipate. I mean, everyone in Ghana possibly had a fair idea that Mr. Mahama was going to hold himself out to contest for the party's elections. But I mean, saying that is good, what exactly is good about it?
Well, it is good because we have seen how the current government, then in opposition, made a lot of lofty promises that we at the time tried to caution Ghanaians to be very wary about. I think it is almost getting to 17 to 18 months in office, and none of the main promises that this government has made has come to fruition. I mean, all we are witnessing is the monthly dosage of scandals and allegations of corruption.
You're judging the government, which has a 4-year mandate, by 2 years when you were in power for close to 8 years. Mr.
Well, we didn't tell them to make promises of, establishing a fund that will grant $1 million to every constituency to, dig one dam in every village in the northern parts of the country where I come from. We didn't tell them to encourage vigilantism and so pretend over the open acts of lawlessness even at the seat of government. So it is their own record that we are going to have to use to measure them. Indeed, the Ghanaian people gave them the option and entrusted their destiny into their hands. And so far, I think the verdict is clear that they have failed woefully. Excuse upon excuse upon excuse. And it is clear that their performance is so abysmal that indeed Ghanaians must look again to the NDC to provide the needed leadership to continue from where we left off. And if indeed the person who was in charge of affairs of this country, who invested massively in almost every single sector of this economy, has indicated his readiness and preparedness to come back on the basis of calls from a multitude of Ghanaians, I think that we have every reason to be joyous and excited.
But Dr. Park, there are those who are of the view that people like yourself who are calling for the former president to contest for the presidency, I mean, I'm not even talking about the flag bearership of the party, those people like yourself who are convincing or pushing for the president to hold himself out, the former president to contest the presidential elections, are not doing so necessarily because you think it's a good thing for your party, but for your own interests, and also especially that this is a man who performed very bad in the elections, which took him out of power. So some will ask, why come back again after suffering such humiliating defeat?
Well, in electoral politics and in every democracy, every election is different, and it is based on the promises that one makes. And I think the the lack of fulfillment of the promises made by the current government. Certainly, it bears us out. Indeed, the former president had said time and again that he would rather do the honest and right thing by telling Ghanaians the reality and the challenges that we were facing at the time and the measures that he was putting in place to address them than to deceive them simply because he wanted to retain in power.
And so it
looks like the Ghanaians fell for, the hoodwinking, and now we are all seeing the consequences.
You don't
but in terms of, people like me and others doing this because we have any ulterior motive, I think you need to do a vox pop or perhaps send your reporters tomorrow to sample opinions about how they feel regarding the legacy or what President Mama was providing for Ghanaians vis-a-vis what is happening today.
Right. Fair enough.
The realities on the ground certainly do not support that thesis. And I think that the excitement which has greeted the signal by the former president in itself tells the full story.
You don't seem to have anything commendable about the government in its 15 years in office, do you?
Well, you tell me. The only thing that perhaps we can even talk about, which I believe was shabbily implemented, was the free senior high school policy. And I mean, we all know the challenges that the policy is facing with students being overcrowded in dormitories, sitting outside in the open to eat. A lot of them don't even have places of convenience. Rooms being overcrowded and students falling ill, some sitting on blocks and, if you like, jerry cans to study. And in fact, if not because of President Mama's vision of investing in physical infrastructure, including in the educational sector, only God knows what would have happened in terms of the magnitude of the challenges that the free senior high school policy is facing. So besides the free senior high school policy, which we all agree has been beset and has been encumbered, in terms of the lack of foresight and proper planning and implementation. You tell me whatever policy has this government implemented that has the capacity to transform the conditions of the people of this nation.
Right, fair enough. Quickly, Dr. Park, you've also been raising concerns about the cost of the presidential diaries, and Eugene Ayin, the Director of Communications at the Presidency, has offered explanations that the cost is borne by private institutions. You're still not satisfied with that explanation?
Certainly not. I am not satisfied. And this debate or this issue also rises from the many reckless allegations that then opposition MPP and his candidate, the current president, sought to throw at us. If you remember fully well, there was an instance where the current president, then opposition leader, traveled abroad and made an allegation that we had spent $10 million to produce presidential diaries at a time when Ghanaians were having a lot of challenges. Well, be as it may, now he is in government, and my investigation has confirmed that they have produced 2017 and 2018 presidential diaries. So I posed the question to try and seek clarification about why the diary was produced in the first place, how it was produced, which company produced it, and the modalities. Only for the Director of Communication at the Presidency to indicate that the diaries were produced by private companies. But he has failed to tell us how the private companies were selected, whether there was competitive tendering, how many diaries were produced, and at what cost. So until he is able to give me details and to put that information in the public domain, one can only assume that this would have been done at the expense of the public press, which is quite contrary and opposite.
I'm afraid we'll have to wrap up our conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Clement Park. We're grateful for your time. This is NewsA10. We're live from the studios here at Adisawe Kanda. We have more news. Please don't go away. Welcome back. Now, 2 suspected drug peddlers have been arrested with 15 bags of dry leaves suspected to be Indian hemp in a joint cross-border operation. The suspects, Majid Mamin, 29, and Mariam Dahamani, 39, were arrested in Nalerugu and Sakogo.
The joint operation, codenamed Kudangu, was conducted by the military, BNI, police, prisons, Forestry Commission and the Immigration Services. It was aimed at combating armed robbery and other criminal activities around the Ghana-Togo border. The suspects were arrested at about 1:30 p.m. on May 18 in the Nalirugo district. Majid Mamin was arrested with 24 wrap of the substance, while Mariam was arrested with 8 maxi sacks and 7 mini sacks of dry leaves, all suspected to be Indian hemp, concealed in her house. Mariam reportedly told the police in her caution statement that the consignment belonged to her husband. According to the Northern Regional Police Crime Officer, Superintendent Kusiapia, the substance are to be sent to Accra for further examination. The two are to be arraigned before court on Tuesday, pending further police investigations.
And the office of former President John Dramani Mahama has responded to claims by President Akufo-Addo that the former president only embarked on ghost projects. According to a statement signed by the former president's aide, Joyce Ba Mokhtari, the former president is gratified that he was able to provide tangible development in all sectors to enhance the quality of life of Ghanaians. The statement added the least President Akufo-Addo must do is to add to his predecessor's significant gains instead of rolling back the clock of socio-economic transformation. According to the statement, after 17 months in office, what the people want to see are the projects initiated or started by the president since he was sworn into office. It also listed some of the projects the former president embarked upon. And earlier today, members of the Liquefied Petroleum Gas Operators Association began a strike to protest government's decision to implement the cylinder recirculation module proposed by the National Petroleum Authority. The association has long kicked against the program, indicating that it would lead to the collapse of their businesses. Nguyen Falong visited some retail outlets and has filed the following report.
A visit to some outlets in the capital showed that the strike was in force. Stations were under lock with customers stranded. At La, a taxi driver, Samuel Wakufo, said he could not work without gas and therefore had to wait.
And that meant to me, because of me, gas and fan.
I will not be able to work today. They have gas, but they are not selling.
What's the watch on information? But I want on your bottom.
Another taxi driver at the Greater Estate, Stephen Mawuli, said he had run out of gas after driving to several outlets in search of LPG.
They have refused to sell to us because they are on strike. I came from Katamanso, where they are also on strike.
At a grow station in Teshi, however, customers who had queued were being served. A restaurant operator explained that he would stay in the queue till he was served.
I'm getting inside for the key, so if you reach my time, you give me. But no, right now.
Many attendants expressed their support for the strike off camera, claiming they were only at work because their superiors had asked them to work. Members of the LPG Operators Association said they have been compelled to take this action because government has failed to address their concerns. As part of the cylinder recirculation module, gas cylinders will no longer be filled up at gas retail outlets, but cylinders will be bought from distributors each time it runs out. These plants will procure, brand, maintain and fill empty cylinders to be distributed to consumers and households through retail outlets and stations deemed to be low risk after government's assessment. The policy, which was developed in 2012, could not be rolled out until President Akufo-Addo ordered its implementation following the public outcry in the wake of the massive explosion at an LPG filling station at Atomic Junction in Accra. The outrage over the explosion was a culmination of widespread concern over the lax safety standards of some LPG and petrol filling stations, which have resulted in about 8 major explosions since 2014. In the view of the association, better vigilance by the fire service and the NPA were better safety options than the policy.
And that's how we wrap up with News at 10. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. On behalf of the rest of the crew, good night. There is more news at 3news.com.